Oh, 7 Commanders, and welcome to another Star Citizen video. My name is Scary Spikes, and today I'm bringing you my revised bounty hunting guide for Star Citizen Alpha 3.17.2, so I hope you enjoy it. Before we get started though, a huge thanks to all of my wonderful channel members and patrons that help keep the lights on here at the studio, so if you'd like to help me out, consider clicking one of the links down below in the description. I'd really appreciate all of your support. Let's go ahead and get started. Alrighty, so we're just above Hurston here, which is one of my favorite locations in the game, and we'll be talking you through basically getting the right ship for the job, and then going through and getting your contracts and doing your certifications so that you can make some serious money with bounty hunting, which, believe it or not, is still a very viable practice in 3.17.2. So, why this ship? Many of you know that I'm not a huge fan of Drake ships in general, but I've got the Buccaneer because, honestly, it's just a very practical kind of ship. It's very beefy in terms of its defensive capabilities, it's very durable, it's accessible to many people, and it's got a very handsome package when it comes to weapons. Giggity. We've got a couple of laser repeaters, and we've also got some ballistic Gatling guns, which should make pretty much short work of just about anything we can run into, save for some of the biggest foes. Now, I think it's important to say that you don't need a Buccaneer for this. In fact, any old ship will do just fine, especially if you're a brand new player and you've gotten yourself an Aurora, a Mustang, a C8X Pisces, a Titan, a Cutlass Black. Any of those newer ships you're going to be absolutely fine with, especially in the early goings, so don't worry too much about that. Let's go ahead and jump into some of the fundamentals that you'll need to familiarize yourself with when you're going bounty hunting. One of the most important things that you'll be using throughout your adventures in bounty hunting or doing pretty much any other mission, or really pretty much anything else in the game for that matter, is going to be the Mobi-Glass. So let's go ahead and get familiarized with only 3 pages for now. Especially if you're new, don't worry, I know there's a lot of information here, but I promise it's not that bad. So let's get through it together. The very first one we're gonna look at the bottom here. These are all different apps that are built into the Mobi-Glass. This one is going to be your navigation and maps. So this is where you can see where you are. That little green symbol right there, that's us. We're currently on Hurston, and very, very easy to navigate. As well as you can see, we're moving the map around and rotating it with the left mouse button. If you'd like to move it across the horizontal pane, you can do that with the right mouse button. You can go ahead and zoom into any planet or anything that's available on the map by just double clicking, and then you can simply, once you've got something selected, click on set route, and that will set your route to that destination, and then clear route will clear the route. So pretty simple. We'll come back to this in just a little bit. The next one that I want to talk about is going to be your bread and butter, and that's going to be the contracts manager, and this is where you're going to find all of the missions that you're going to do. It's also how you can track them, share them, and of course complete them, and see all of the different completed missions that you have. Now again, I know that there's a lot of information here, but we're going to be looking at the General tab, and specifically the Bounty Hunter tab, and then we're also going to be looking at the Accepted tab. So those are the 2 main tabs that we're going to go ahead and focus on, and we'll go into more detail once we come back from the Delphi app, which is the last one that I want to show you very quickly. So when you're doing bounty hunting or pretty much any other activity through missions in Star Citizen, you're going to be getting some benefits in the form of gaining reputation with a number of different organizations and persons around the verse. Now, when you're bounty hunting, you're mostly going to be concerned about the Bounty Hunters Guild. This is a system-wide guild of bounty hunters, as the name implies, and this is going to allow you to gain reputation with them. Once you've gotten to the maximum reputation on a certain level, you're going to unlock a mission that you can do, which will then unlock the next reputation level, and so on. Each of these reputation levels have various different benefits and perks. As you can see here, you can pause the video or slow down the speed if you want to see what they are. But there's a number of different perks. Most of them really just unlock additional difficulties, additional certification missions, and basically more difficult and challenging enemies with higher payouts. So this is definitely something that you want to keep an eye on, and something that will allow you to progress further and make more money as you go. All right, so let's go ahead and head back into the Contracts Manager, and we're going to pick up our very first mission. So over on the Bounty Hunter page here under General, we're going to go ahead and look for a mission that says Tracker Training Permit Certification. Now, with these certification missions, one of the ways that you know it's exactly the one that you're looking for is, 1, if you've gained a new reputation level in the Delphi app, and then 2 is if it's asking you to pay. This is pretty much the only mission in the game, or mission type I should say, that will ask you to pay money for the certification. It's a very low fee at the moment. It's 500 UAC, which is really not going to be too much, especially if you're a brand new player and you've used the link or the code in the description down below, which will allow you to get 5,000 extra alpha UEC free of charge when you pick up a game package using that link. So that's going to give you enough money to probably do the first 3 missions or so, because it's going to be about 500 for the first one, 1,000 for the next one, and I think about 2,500 for the third one. So you'll already have, just from the get-go, all the money that you need to do the first 3 certification missions, which will take you a little bit of time, because remember, you do have to grind out some of that rep that we saw in the Delphi app. So we've got a few options here. At the very sort of bottom on here is where we're going to start, and you've got the abandon, the untrack, and the share button. Now the abandon, that's pretty straightforward. If you want to abandon the mission, you can do that. The untrack is if you want to untrack it because you want to track something else, you can do that. But we're going to go ahead and click on track because we want to see where we're going. And then, of course, we've got share. And this is actually really nice because if you're flying with a party and a bunch of people and you want to share this mission with them so that they don't each have to individually do it, which is what basically used to happen back in the day, then you can do that. And then basically the first person that completes the last objective of the mission, in this case, we only have one, is going to complete that mission for everybody. And that is such a nice thing to have because back in the day, you couldn't share these types of missions and it was really just a pain in the butt. Now, one thing that I should mention before we move on to the next stop is that I'm not sure if this is an intended feature, but if you have somebody that's really far ahead and they're about to do like the second last or the last certification mission and you have nowhere near the reputation to unlock that on your own, if they share that mission with you and you complete that mission with them, you will be able to fight the enemies that mission unlocks without previously having to get all the reputation to unlock it yourself and complete it to be able to do the same thing. So I hope that makes sense. If you do complete a higher certification mission with a friend, then you are going to be able to fight higher end enemies. Just keep in mind that that will not be permanent because of course you haven't gotten the experience and the reputation required to unlock it yourself. So if you do a character reset or any kind of wipe happens, then you're going to lose access to those missions. All right, so enough talking. Let's go ahead and head over to the mission objective. So again, we're going to go ahead and press F2 and we can see that we now have a marker which looks like it's in Crusader. So if we double click into Crusader, we can see that we have a marker right here which looks to be on, I believe this is yellow. Yep, it's yellow. And this is where our target's going to be. So we have to go all the way there. Now you're going to potentially get 2 different types of missions. This one is going to be a space mission because the target is in space. As you can see there, you know they're in space because they're kind of just floating around away from the planet. But sometimes you will get a mission that is atmospheric or planet-based. Now, again, those come in 2 sub-varieties. One is going to be pretty much right over any kind of landmark. So for example, you might get one right over the security point and then you can travel to the security point because it's a landmark. So you can click on that and you can click on set route and then you'll get your route. But sometimes what's going to happen is if you do get an atmospheric bounty, it might actually be between 2 different points on the map. So if we double click again, we can see that we have all of the different points. So you might have something like, let's say between this point and this point, it might be like over here somewhere, and you're not going to be able to click it because it's not actually a point of interest on the map. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to go to the closest one and then manually follow the marker and fly to it in atmosphere in order to reach it. So just something to be ready for because sometimes that does happen. Now, if CIG is listening to this, it would really be nice if we had the choice if we wanted to do just the space bounties or just the atmospheric bounties. I don't mind doing both, but I know some people that enjoy one or the other, so having that choice would definitely be really sweet. So let's go ahead and set our route. So just clicking on where the enemy is and clicking on set route, and then we'll go ahead and leave by pressing F1. And once we're navigating out to basically back into our spaceship, you can see, without the sun being kind of in the way too much, that we do have a marker now. So we can actually go ahead and boot up our quantum drive or start up our quantum drive by pressing B. And all we need to do is just kind of wait for the calibration and the spooling to be complete, which now it is. And we're going to go ahead and hold B, and that is going to begin quantum travel to Crusader. So we'll see you there, and we'll fly over and do this mission together. And hopefully that will do a pretty good job explaining what to expect with bounty hunting. Okay, so we've arrived at Yella. We're just going to go to our final point here in the asteroid field, and then we should be good to go. So when you arrive at the destination, you're going to notice that you're going to be spat out of quantum pretty much about 25 to 30 kilometers away from your target, and you won't be able to see them. Now, if you're in a much larger ship, then they'll be able to see you, generally speaking, sooner than you'll be able to see them, so just keep that in mind. I'm going to go ahead and just preemptively switch to my missiles here, and then switch over to my ignites. Those are going to be size 2 missiles, which I actually failed to mention that do accompany you on this ship, other than the weapons that I showed off before, and that's really nice to have, especially since we're going to be fighting something that's going to be quite a bit smaller, so even just one size 2 missile should be fine, but we've got 4, so we should have absolutely no problems handling the threat. We're going to go ahead and continue to move on towards the marker, being very careful not to hit any of the asteroids, and hopefully we'll be able to see our target soon. Now, sometimes what will happen is you might arrive at the location and find that there's really nothing here. Sometimes it's important just to kind of hang out for a minute or two, and then you should see stuff starting to spawn in. In this case, we have our targets, so we're going to go ahead and lock them up. And we're going to go ahead and switch to guns since they're very close. All right, we've got some missiles coming. We're going to go ahead and hit T to target the next guy. And that's it. That's literally all it took. We didn't even have to use our missiles. By the way, I was using H to put up some flares to try to dodge that missile. You can use H or J. H is going to be for your flares, and J is going to be for your chaff. Now, I know they call it something different in the game, but honestly, I just prefer to call it flares and chaff. Basically, what the chaff does is that's the noise. That's the stuff that makes you a little bit harder to detect or more difficult to target before someone is able to target you. And then the flares, that's what's going to be the decoy, I guess, as they call it in the game. That's what's going to help you to dodge any of the missiles that might be fired at you. What you can do as well is you can press each of those buttons, either H or J, for a single deployment, or you can go ahead and hold them, and that's going to queue up a few. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and beef up my shield here so that we can regen our shield quickly since our shields are down. But I'll show you over on the right bottom hand corner, you can see that we have 45 decoys and 5 noise. So if I hold the H key, you can see that we're queuing them up 3, 4, 5, and then if I let go, I've let go of 5 decoys. The same can be said for the noise as well. So if you have a number of missiles coming at you, 1 or 2 of the flares might not be enough to basically dodge them, so you might need to queue up a few and let them go, along with some evasive maneuvers, and then you should be fine. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I hope you found the video helpful and enjoyable, and if you did, you can help me out in a big way by remembering to like the video and sharing it with your friends and communities to get it a little bit more attention. Of course, that is also much appreciated if you become a subscriber with notifications turned on if you have not done so already, so that you avoid missing future content. And of course, if you'd like to go above and beyond, you can also click on one of the links down below in the description, become one of my awesome channel members or patrons over on Patreon. Got some extra perks and goodies in there for you as well, and very, very much appreciate your direct support. Of course, you can also come by and say hello to me directly on Discord, as well as meet our awesome community. We'd love to see you there. And of course, as always, in the next video.